pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to speak this message today to your people, not only here in America, but around the world, in which we're thankful for the media platform that you've given this ministry. Could any good thing come out of LAVONIA? And we're so grateful and humbled by what you're doing. And I say, be glorified, Jesus. Reach the nations as only you can, because the time is short and there's a quick work that must be done. We're available, Jesus. We're willing. And we want to do what you desire in this last days. Father, hide me now behind the shadow of the cross in order that Jesus would get all the praise and the honor and the glory, and that no man would remember my name, but remember the name that's above every name. That name is Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. Again, good to be in the house of the Lord. Good to see everybody. Those that are on live stream, we love you and we appreciate you as our ministry continues to grow and the media platforms, as YouTube is expanding in other places. And though we still know that some of those things are being censored and being held back, the numbers, but that's what they do because they don't like the truth getting out. But that's okay, amen. God is making the difference, and I just appreciate everybody's prayers. The message that I'm going to preach to you this morning, of course, I'll give you the word that the Lord spoke to me, is a message that would probably be illegal in probably 3/4 of this planet. And one day will be illegal in this country. And so when I preach this, I remember my brothers and sisters that are in harm's way in both socialistic and communistic and atheistic nations of the world that are strangling the truth. And they're trying to destroy the Word of God. But I know, because the Bible tells us, that at the end we win. And that those voices, no matter how they are silenced or they're tweaked to where they become a whisper, they still roar like the Lion of the tribe of Judah wherever God points it to go. And so I don't have any misunderstanding of what I'm going to say this morning. But I do have clear revelation that one day this will not be allowed in this nation. In fact, it's already starting. And I will give you more about that in a minute. Here's the word the Lord spoke to me. He said, America, you're caught in a trap, a web of deception that you cannot escape from. You've entangled yourself in this web of deceit by the lust of your flesh. You wanted more and more, and cared less about your soul. Truth was your shield, and truth was your buckler, but your greed caused you to be deceived and disarmed. Now you wander in a land of make-believe. You drink from the fountain that has been polluted, but you care not, because you see not. You're blinded by the potion of your master, the devil. In a stupor, you walk around thinking all is well, while your cities churn into hell. I've waited for your hand to reach out for mine, but you refuse to admit that you have need of rescue. You have chosen your God and your guide. You've embraced your destiny, and you will lie in the bed of your choosing. America, I would have raised you up to shine even brighter. But now your candlestick has been removed and your flame has gone out. America, where are you without me? Who are you without me? Darkness is a lonely place. Very powerful word from the Lord. I ask for you to pray as always. Listen to the voice of the Lord, the Spirit of God, as He brings you into understanding. During my time of prayer, as you know, I receive the word of the Lord, and then He gives me scripture and He gives me a title. And the title of this message is called Propaganda. Propaganda. Maybe not a normal title for you to hear on your Sunday morning television programs or your radios as you drive through town or what have you. Most messages today are watered down versions of Mary Had a Little Lamb and lullabies to keep the church asleep as we go over the cliff into the abyss of a nation that has gone insane. And there is no doubt about that. All you have to do is pay attention to your surroundings and take a look around and verify that this is true. But there are those in our nation who refuse to recognize and realize what time it is, because I've said this many times, we are a nation of consumers. We like to be kept comfortable. We like to be kept in a safe place, in a safe mindset, where we're never troubled. We're always consuming and receiving things to make us feel A-okay. And in part, there's nothing wrong with being safe and sound and secure. But when it becomes a lifestyle that we refuse to accept truth for what it is, it becomes a bait of deception in which we swallow and causes us to go from truth into error. And that is where we are today in our nation. We are in a time frame of great error, of great deception, of lies and deceit. These webs that have been spun by all sorts of entrapments around us, but yet few see it. I'm glad you're awake today. I'm glad this house is awake and those that are associated with this ministry, because we've been preaching this truth for a while. And it has come with great cost, but it also has come with great blessing. So propaganda, what a title for the Lord to give concerning a Sunday message here in America. And you would think that I would be speaking of communist China, or maybe I would be speaking of Russia, or perhaps Cuba, or some other nation that has its people in a stranglehold concerning truth and information. And though I will mention those nations as I preach this morning, the reality is that America fits the bill just the same as these foreign nations that I mentioned. And we are metamorphosizing into a greater position of propaganda than we ever have before. And this will come as a surprise to some people, because they've never heard such things, because they live again in that bubble world of a false reality. Just like the economy today is a false bubble, we think because a mantra comes down from HQ, comes down from any other place than those that are telling the truth, we believe it, and we say, you know what, it can't be bad in America because everybody says it's good. And because of that mantra that we hear, we live in this deception. Let me give you a little information and background before I preach. It'll give me something just to dive off into. Because like I said, what I'm going to say today would not be legal in probably 3/4 of the nations of the world. Because you're not allowed to speak truth. You're not allowed to speak against government. You're not allowed to speak against people in authority in churches and those that claim to have the so-called corner market of news and revelation and information. Because you're supposed to go with the flow, don't you know? Don't you know you're not supposed to make waves? Don't you know you're supposed to make friends with everybody? Don't you know you got to be politically correct and you got to receive everything that they tell you in order to be a good citizen, in order to be a good model Christian? Come on, y'all know what I'm talking about. And the reason we haven't stood up and said something is the reason why we're having all of this stuff shoved down our throat in America. Whether it's homosexuality and homosexual marriage, or whether it is transgender in our children's libraries, in our schools, and the books that they are learning, and the reading, and all the entrapments that are taking place by this Babylonian system. It's being shoved right down our throats, and very few are doing anything about it. And there's a reason for this. There's a reason that our nation has been saturated and overflowing like a sewage tank. It's because of propaganda. And in some nations you would go to prison, in some nations they would bulldoze this place of worship and put an apartment complex or a government building right on the very foundation because of messages like this. But as the Lord spoke to me to preach this message, I said, Lord, I'll do it, because there is coming a day. There is coming a day, and it won't be long, when you're not allowed to say these things. Already they're censoring people in America for preaching the gospel. They're already taking money away from them on YouTube. They're already kicking them off of Facebook and social media. They're already trying to destroy the truth because they want to control the masses. Propaganda. Let me give you the definition of propaganda in case you were publicly educated like I was. Propaganda is information that is not objective and is used primarily to influence an audience to further an agenda. Let me repeat that to you. Propaganda is information that is not objective and is used primarily to influence an audience and further an agenda. In America today, we have been influenced by the news media, whether it's been influenced by the White House or any other place of power. We've been influenced by them for an agenda. It says also presenting facts to selectively encourage a particular perception. We've been branded here in America with the perception that everything is fine, that there's no troubles whatsoever, that because we have a president in the White House, we now have law and order and everything's at peace and everything is calm. We have nothing to worry about of our enemies that seek to destroy us. We have no worry about the economy because the stock market is so high. We have nothing to worry about because numbers that have been fudged are telling us that the best days are just before us. How many of y'all know that is a lie? And the agenda that has been put into our mindset every single time we turn on our televisions and every time we watch news or we get on our social media, we are being deceived by the powers that be. There was a time when propaganda was a word that was accepted in the English language as being neutral. It absolutely meant sending good news or sending information around, spreading it out. But as we came into the 20th century, it became a negative content and context. As we all know about the wars that were fought around the world, including World War I, where the British the Germans, they admitted that through the British ability to use propaganda, they defeated them. And which caused Adolf Hitler to rise up in power with the ability to use propaganda to the nations. Is anybody here? In fact, one of his major propagandists, who was a poster designer and an artist, Hans Switzer, made all kinds of posters throughout Nazi Germany to show people their need for a savior and a need for a leader. And his name was Adolf Hitler. Propaganda took place with the power of Satanism and deception. And it weaved this web throughout the mindset of the Germans that they must rise up, they must have a Führer, they must have a leader, they must have somebody that's going to make Germany great again, they must have somebody that's going to rise up in power because we've had enough of poverty, we had enough of the bad days, it is time to rise up and show who we are. And that man was Adolf Hitler. This is true. This is history. Go back and research propaganda. Propaganda was used not only during the time of Nazi Germany, it was used in Russia, the old Soviet Union. It was also used in Red China. How many of y'all remember some of the posters of those days where it showed the iron, the hammer and the sickle, and showing the worker to go out and fight? America was not immune from that because we learned from these other entities how to have our own propaganda, and we did it very well. How many of y'all remember the posters when you were in school and they showed you in history class about those rolling up their sleeves, including women that went out and worked? They did it to bring the war money in and to bring the expertise needed for armaments and aircraft and these type of things. It was propaganda. It was here in America. After the war of World War II, America began to do away with that particular type of propaganda because it didn't seem to fit the mindset and the role of our nation. You didn't see it as much as you used to. But as I did my research, I was really astounded by this. And by the way, this is my introduction, so don't take off on my time today because I feel like preaching. But you need to hear this to know where I'm headed. In the 1930s, the late 1930s, and I did not know this, but Norman Rockwell, how many of y'all remember Norman Rockwell, made all those great cartoons on the Saturday Evening Post, those great pictures and things. Well, I learned through my research that even Mr. Rockwell said that for 50 years I did propaganda to whitewash America with all these sceneries of America when really America had some dark places within it. In fact, it inspired him so much that in his last years he began to paint about segregation and racism in America. Some of y'all still remember that. So even as something as so innocent as that in our American heritage and history and mindset, we've had propaganda in our country. But again, the nation began to turn away from it, allegedly. And we put a ban upon propaganda in our country. And truth excelled in America. It exploded in America because that's when the preachers began to preach unhinged, unhindered. There was nothing holding them back. And they preached with power. And they weren't afraid what anybody would say against them. Today, men are cowardly and women are cowardly to stand up and speak the truth because they're more worried about somebody giving them an amen or an offering or an applause than they are about truth. We need some men and women with a backbone today in America to stand up against the propaganda machine of not only the devil but the current system, which is the beast system in our lives. Many are being fooled and damned because they're trusting in a lie. On July 2nd in 2012, that ban on propaganda was broken. A law was made in 2012 that allowed propaganda to come back into the United States system of communication. Most Americans are oblivious to this. Under the leadership of President Barack Obama. Then in 2017, in the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, it was put into legislation. Now watch this. I'm going to read this to you because, again, most Americans have no idea this exists right now. A global engagement center ran by the State Department. As I speak, there is a propaganda ministry of truth in America right now under the title that I just gave you that was signed into law in 2017 and was reaffirmed through President Donald Trump. In other words, if you go back and look and read and see what this is talking about, it is giving the United States the right and the ability to use propaganda, as they say, against terrorism and foreign entities. But the truth of the matter is it gives them the right to change things and to use lies to deceive and to change the narrative of what's going on around to keep you and I in a people prison within our minds. It's law. Look it up. I've told you everything factual. All you need to do is take some time in study, which most people who are critics do not. So I bring this to you this morning as I'm beginning my message. Then we look at all these foreign nations and we point fingers at them and we say, how dare you hold back the freedom of press, and how dare you hold back Christian rights and religious freedoms and all these freedoms that we call so great here in this nation. And we say, how dare you, and wag the finger at them, when here in our own country we have the same mechanism, we have the same ministry of truth, we have the same ability to bring to you a false narrative in America. You say, how does that happen, Pastor? It happens every time you get on social media. It happens every time that you turn on your television. It happens every time that you pick up a newspaper. It happens every time that you go into a church where the gospel of Jesus Christ is not being preached and humanistic, secular gospel is. America has been an experiment for the socialist elites and globalists for decades. But we're now coming down to the crucible time. We're coming down to critical mass, where they're using this in presidential elections. They're using this in all sorts and forms of news to get us to think like they think. Is anybody here? I know this is true because of the resistance that I feel, but I know it's true as well because it is inside of the house of God in America, with our false prophets that are telling us all these stories of how America is going to be great again, and continues the mantra of a president and an administration and past administrations about America and about our enemies and about all these different things to keep us in that narrative and in that flow to continue to move down the road towards the beast system. It amazes me that even Bible scholars and teachers and those in the prophetic community can't see this, that Babylon is alive and well in America, and that it is leading us into the path of unrighteousness. It's leading us to a place called hell. Our schools today are so full of misteachings and misunderstandings of history. Anywhere the Bible is absent, there is falsehoods. Teaching our children that they don't have a gender. Teaching our children that they can do whatever they want to do sexually, that they can grow up any way that they want to, that the anatomy that they were created with does not matter. They can simply replace it or reject it or ignore it and just go on and be who you want to be. It's happening in public schools in America today. Why don't we make schools great again? My question to you today as a church and those that are listening to me, where has Common Core gone? Common Core hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. It's on steroids. But I thought we were going to change this human experiment. I thought we were going to change what the last administration did, and we were going to bring back some sanity and bring back some purity to our children. Our children have gone farther over the edge of insanity. It's craziness. So you and I have been programmed by this nation and by the powers that be to follow the Pied Piper in this last day. We're being conditioned to accept the condition of our economy. We have been conditioned to accept the condition of our military. When if we pull back the layers of skin and the layers of the facade, we recognize and realize that our economy is on the brink of collapse. If you look at the numbers, in which I don't have time this morning to do so, you can go to my latest YouTube video and see the facts that are there. Numbers don't lie, men do. That we're on the precipice, not only of this country, but around the world. But yet you continuously hear from our news people that everything is absolutely wonderful. We're told that our military is better than it has ever been. When I just read a report, they're fatter than they've ever been. And out of shape as they've ever been. And drug and alcohol abuse and all kinds of other debaucheries taking place within the military. You say, well, you sound negative. No, I'm a realist. I'm not negative, I'm telling the truth. And that's what they do, is they flip it around to make somebody who's telling the truth look so bad because they've made it look so good. Go to Jeremiah chapter 17, would you? Jeremiah chapter 17. Can I preach now? So propaganda, just gave you my introduction. About 25 minutes, not too bad. Lay a little groundwork for you. See, in our nation, because of the churches that we go to and the inflow of knowledge and inflow of information that we get, we become what we hear. We do. We become what we hear. If we're always listening to this particular news, then we're going to become like that, and our opinion will be like that. If we listen to this talk host who's on the radio all the time between 12 and 3 or whatever hour it may be, we become like that talk host, and we believe that, and it goes into our mindset, and it goes into the psyche, and it goes into the reasoning of our thought patterns. And then like a parakeet or a wind-up robot, we begin to speak and do what we have been told. And so propaganda is in America today, whether you like it or not. I prove to you that the government is doing it. But I want to talk to you about the church and the propagandists that are out there. And I want to talk to you about how deadly this is and why it is here in the church and why we're being fooled and why we're being led astray. Verse 1, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 1. I know I've been here before, but I'm not keeping score. Verse 1, the sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. God begins by speaking to Jeremiah. I want you to say something to the nation, and I don't want you to be afraid to say it. You tell them that they have sinned. Now right there, most preachers would get kicked out of the house, or Jeremiah would be thrown out if he talked about sin, because we live, again, in a mindset in a nation, in churches where we do no wrong, we have no sin. When one of the greatest sinners is usually the guy behind the pulpit. He just knows how to fake it good. She just knows how to slither good. But Jeremiah wants you to tell them that their sin is in two places. Where is the sin left as an indelible mark? It is left in the heart and it's left in the altar. When your sin is placed inside of your heart and it's an indelible mark, then your mind, your life, your whole thought pattern becomes that of unrighteousness and of deception, to the point that it invades and infects the house of God. This is why I don't listen to many people who say they have a prophetic word from God or have some new revelation or some new teaching, or listen to this latest message or watch this latest video. All I need is around 30 seconds. Give me 30 to 60 seconds and I can hear it inside their voice and say, that's not truth. But there are those in the church today that will sit and listen to people for hours and hours and hours, and they'll never get in the Bible for themselves. They'll listen to a preacher. Honey, this is the hour to shut the preacher off and get into the Bible, the Bible. Get into that book. Because disinformation is coming at us like a river. Misinformation is coming at us like a storm. And all of that is part of propaganda and the great deception of the last days. And God said He would allow that delusion to take place. There are those that have truth. There are those that speak truth. There are powerful prophetic words, absolutely. And they must line up with the Word of God. But I'm telling you, there are many that are out there that are following these false Hananiahs, these false prophets, leading them into deception and bringing them into greater disheartenment and wearing the saints down. Say what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just recently, prophetic words talking about this big roundup. Remember I told you that it ain't going to happen. It did not happen. Of course, now they got to change it. The first reason there couldn't be this big roundup from the swamp of over 50,000 indictments is because a Hurricane Florence came in and messed everything up. I'm telling you the truth now. So I look at that and I chuckle and I laugh. LOL. So then the next thing came out and said, well, it's going to happen on October 3rd, right when the presidential alert comes out. They're going to drain the swamp and all this is going to come down, and just get ready for it. Watch me now, hang with me. It came. October 3rd came. We got the stupid tweet or whatever it was, and ain't nobody went to jail nowhere except the local bum. Is anybody here? So the next video, though, comes out that says, well, it's not going to happen on that day, obviously. Now, because we're waiting on Kavanaugh to become a Supreme Court justice, now we're going to have the roundup, and then we're going to have it probably around the midterm elections. It is going to be crazy. And all of this is disinformation and misinformation to keep the church on edge and to keep them deceived and to bring forth a great white hope in the White House and a great white hope somewhere in our nation that we're going to turn this thing over, and in the midst of our sin and degradation and debauchery, God is going to stand up and bless us for who we are. That is insanity. It's insanity gone to seed. And I know I'm talking to a vast audience today of both local and those international. And some understand what I'm saying and some are just now getting on board. But I'm telling you, this is what's happening in the mainstream of prophetic community folks. And it is absolutely driving people insane because they can't find the truth. And they're waiting for the shoe to drop. And they're waiting for this great roundup to take place. And all of a sudden, America will change. I'm telling you, America will not change that way. It'll only change under the mighty hand of judgment from God. And I don't mean change for the good, change for the bad. Again, people say, well, that doesn't sound like hope. It sounds like hope to me because it's the Bible. Because the Bible said that he's going to round this thing up. But he's going to finish this whole thing up. He's going to wind it up one day. How many of y'all waiting for the coming of the Lord? The parousia. I'm waiting on the coming of the Lord. I'm waiting for the appearance of my Savior. But according to our Bible, we got to fight the fight. We got a way to go. We got a long haul. And I need to speak this morning very clearly as the Lord gave me an assignment about propaganda in our churches. We have people that are being fooled, thinking everything is fine and being fooled that all is well. And I wish it were so. How I wish that everything was wonderful in my country and that we weren't seeing the craziness that we're seeing. But it's not well. We're a sick people. Verse 2. Which their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills. Again, this is speaking of the indelible mark that is being put in the children's minds. This is an indelible mark that is being placed into them because of the worship that is taking place around them. It is an indelible mark that they're watching their families and churches and hearing from preachers that are telling them it's okay, that you can love the same sex, that you can have all these different feelings, as I said earlier, and to allow all this sewage to be put into their pure mind. Where do they learn this? They learn it from the church, and they learn it from those that are deceived. Where will they find truth? They'll find truth from you. It'll find truth from me, from those that will stand up and look at them and say, honey, that's not the way. This is the way. This is what God did. He created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. You are born beautiful and fearfully and wonderfully made in who you are. Stand up and be who you are in this hour. But we're fighting the propaganda machine that is coming out of our government and out of other places and other entities, including the church. And we're fighting against this cesspool of deception. I know what I'm talking about because I'm constantly pushing back as we preach from this pulpit, pushing back lies and pushing back deception and false prophets and false prophecies. As I said earlier, these guys telling you that all this is going to happen, it was nothing more than a mantra for an election, and it somehow slipped over into the prophetic, and it became a prophetic annunciation and pronunciation and declaration. I'm telling you, it's from hell. But our church, our people are too blindsided. We're too happy and comfortable. And we don't like to hear this type of preaching because it puts us on edge and it makes us accountable to research for ourselves. But I'm telling you, it's an hour you need to start researching for yourselves and not to believe every 6-foot icicle that stands up on a television set or before a camera or behind a pulpit. It's time for the church to find truth. So he said it's even affected your children. It's even affected the young people in your homes and in your lives. It's even affected your grandchildren. You know, it's one thing for someone to go on in deception and do what they want to do behind closed doors. It's another thing when you bring it into the public arena of entertainment and sports. It's another thing when you have to turn on the television programs and your cartoons, and now the cartoons are full of this junk. Video games and other things, you have to watch and see what is upon them because it's being spewed out, the propaganda. And we say, oh, it's just evil. It's just, you know, it's just bad times. No, this is on purpose. These are people that are moved under satanic power to bring forth this stuff to you, to keep you in the narrative that this is okay, that this is normal, that this is global. I'm here to tell you it's not normal. It's not normal to think that way. It's not normal for our young people to be entertained with this debaucheries. It's absolutely a horrible time in our country. I wouldn't want to be a young person. I wouldn't want to be a young person without a daddy like me. Or a mama like you. Is anybody here? I wouldn't want to be out there with the parents that didn't care, that had their head wherever they wanted it to be and do what they want to do and live the life of glamorous pursuit of nothingness. Isn't it amazing that everybody wants to be on a reality show? Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be known. Everybody wants to be on Instagram. You're not that cute. Look at your neighbor. You're just not that cute. But I'll tell you what, you get a little bit of 5 seconds of fame, 5 minutes of fame, everybody just goes crazy, man. They're going to be the next star. They're going to be this or be that. Why don't you just be you and be the best you possibly can? But we don't teach our children that today. We teach them a mindset of becoming famous and well known. Are you still in the Bible? Verse 3. On my mountain in the field I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders. God told Jeremiah, said, Jeremiah, I know that they're prosperous, and I know things seem to be going pretty good for Israel and for the house of Judah and those whom you're speaking to, but I want you to still stand up and speak to them that everything that their parents and they worked for will one day be dissolved. Jeremiah would have done good on the days before the Great Depression to stand up in America and say those things. But even before the Great Depression, the stock market was at all-time highs. And then the crash came. And today we're at the same precipice and same point of time where we're at all-time highs in our stock market, but yet the indicators of emerging markets and global analytics and realities and numbers are telling us a whole nother story. But Jeremiah still stands today in the voice of Jeremiah through the scriptures and says, all of your high mountains and everything that you so-called work for one day will dissolve. Again, in the mindset of Americans, you say this to them and they say, it's not possible. There's no way. You absolutely have lost your mind, preacher. You've absolutely lost your credibility. You've absolutely lost me. Well, I may have for this moment, but reality will smack you upside your head in the coming days. As Noah prepared for the flood, he told everybody rain was coming, and they said, what is rain? What are you building, Noah? You look pretty foolish preparing for a rainy day when we don't even know what that is. All we've ever known was dew rising up. Everybody knows the story of Noah. Verse 4. And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage. Here's Jeremiah saying, listen, you had a heritage, you had a blessing, you had a connection with your history, but your history was connected with truth, and now you've departed and you've disengaged from truth. Therefore, you will deal with certain judgment. for your heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. There's coming a time when we will enter into our nation reality of things we never knew about. In other words, it is going to be very hard for those that are so used to going to the ATM and getting money out and all the luxuries that we have when we begin to face our hardships. Again, we have a short memory in America. Just go back and look at the Great Depression and see what happened with our forefathers as they struggled to make ends meet. But the propaganda machine will not allow you to think this way. The propaganda machine in America will not allow you to prepare and get ready for hard times. The propaganda machine will not tell you to get out of the stock market and to get into real assets. They'll tell you to continue to play the Russian roulette, continue to gamble, continue to take a chance because it can only go higher and higher, and the sky is the limits. How many of y'all know you can only blow up a balloon so far? You can only make a bubble so large until it pops. The trouble is, where will you be when it pops? What will you be doing at the time that the whole propaganda machine falls apart in this country? Verse number 5. Y'all still here? Everybody got a pulse? I got one more hour and I'm out of here. Sorry, this ain't traditional church out by 12. Verse 5. Thus saith the Lord, cursed. That's pretty heavy. Cursed be the man that does what? That trusts in man. Cursed is a man that trusts in man. God says, let me give you an indictment. If you trust in the hands of man, no matter who they are, there's a curse upon you. If you trust upon the propaganda of a man, then a curse is upon you. If you trust in anything else besides God and His truth, a curse comes upon you. Doesn't mean you don't co-labor and you have friends and you work together. It's talking about putting total dependency upon an apparatus and a system, putting your total trust in a government and a system that is corrupt. I know I'm kicking against the pricks today because in America we put our heart and our whole life into this political system and democracy and all these things, and we think, oh man, they're going to take care of us. They're going to be there when we need them. Some of y'all have a short memory and you forget the times of crisis in our nation when we've looked for a helping hand from our government. Our government wasn't there because it can't help you. And even the Church of Jesus Christ is impotent in many forms and fashion of compassion. And we see that even of recent days when people won't even reach out to their neighbors in North and South Carolina during a time of disaster for them. It's a sad indictment. But thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. You see, when you put your trust in man, you leave God, you leave His side, you leave His help. When you start making money and feeling good and getting luxury around you, you start forgetting what you did to get there. You forget faith. You forget your labor of love. You forget your labor for the church and for the love of God and the people of God. You forget these things because now you have something to lay back on. Now you have your nest egg. Now you have your retirement. Now you have all these different things that propaganda tells you you have. You don't have anything unless you have trust in God. I don't have anything unless I put my faith and put my trust and put my hope and put my life in Christ. He is my safety net, not my job, not the things I have. But we don't have that understanding in America because, again, the propaganda, because our pastors aren't leading us into truth. They're not telling us to prepare. They're not telling us to put away food. They're not telling us to get ready for the coming crisis and all the disasters that are coming to our country that the Bible speaks of explicitly. Because they don't want to make you mad. They don't want to make you nervous, and they don't want you to stop giving and all those different things. And they're worried about what their bishop's going to say, and they're worried about what everybody in the committee is going to say, and they're worried about Brother Big Bucks. Instead of having a back like a T-rail and be bold and tell it like it is in love. I love you, man, but here's the deal. It's written in red. This is what Jesus said. This is what he said that was going to happen in the last days. This is what he said would take place, that the kingdoms of the earth, the kingdoms would all crash and fall. And that a nation divided against itself shall not stand. The house divided cannot stand. And here we are in America right now. We are the most divided we've ever been. We're divided by race. We're divided by social status and financial status. We're divided by political views. We're divided by theological views. We're divided by age and all kinds of things because it's part of the propaganda in our nation. The news agencies that are fed lies from the liar in chief and those in power who send it back out, and we become confused. As I said earlier about these prophets that are telling you all these things that are going to happen to America, let me just be very clear with you. There will be martial law in America, but it won't be the martial law that you're thinking of, and it won't be the roundup that you're thinking of. It'll be your roundup. It'll be our roundup. It'll be exactly the way the Bible declared persecution would come to the American church, and that's happening right now in China and various countries of the world. It will come to the American shores when that beast system is totally in power, and it's coming. These are all warm-ups. This is all propaganda. This is all for the buzzing and the stirring of your mind to accept it when it comes, but it'll be for you. Watch. I want to make an announcement today to those who follow this ministry and anybody listening to me today that will be by the multiplied thousands. Here is the deal. If you have any connection with any of these people who've promoted any of these prophecies, QAnon or any other type of person, Mark Taylor, I don't care who they are, that have prophesied and lied and said these things would happen and they did not happen, disconnect, unsubscribe, and get them out of your head now. And don't follow another video. Don't follow another headline. Don't follow another blog. Don't follow another article whatsoever, because you're being put into the matrix of deception. You are being brought into the place of propaganda, and you are trusting in the arm of a man, and you're not following what the Word of God says concerning the last days. Some people may not like that, and I don't really care. Don't have a lot of friends anyways. I just got yous. And yous got me. That reminds me of an old song. I got you, babe. Don't make me go there. I don't even like the one that sang it. I like the song. I don't like the one that sang it. Anybody here today? It has to be said because propaganda is upon our country. It's in our church. It's in our mindsets. And we're focusing on the wrong thing. We should be focusing on what's coming down the line. We must be focusing on harvest and preaching the gospel and reaching those in China and Indonesia and other places of tragedy. We should be focusing on kingdom truth and preaching that Jesus has been crucified but raised from the dead. We should be focused upon signs and wonders and miracles and helping the local house of God to become the storehouse that it should be. We should be focused on Jesus, not on the White House and not on the propaganda that's coming through the silver screens and through the power of media. We should be preaching Christ. We should be living like the church of Acts and the first church, bold and dangerous, not afraid to point towards truth and to call out those who are liars in our hour, deceiving the elect. Deceiving the house of God, giving these poor people in their homes, these housewives and moms and dads and whoever, giving them a false sense of hope that maybe this day we're going to just do something radical and we're going to metamorphosize into a new America. And then what? Then what? We're going to metamorphosize into a new America. And then what? Then we got to round up all the transvestites. Now I'm going to preach to you. Then we got to go round up all the pedophilia. Then we got to round up all the freaks and the Pharisees. Then we got to... See, I told this would be illegal in some countries. We got to round up all these people. See, then we got to go get all the dope heads and we got to dump in the Lake Hartwell. Y'all ain't helping me. Then we got to get all the DUI killers. And then we got to go get MS-13, all the gang members. Then we got to. You're never going to clean this nation up. You're never going to make it great again. You are listening to propaganda and lies of the enemy. This ain't no different than Hitler's Nazi Germany. This is no different. We're just in this vortex and we're just spinning around and it's keeping us consumed and entertained. Listen, propaganda comes to you so that you stay on the agenda, so you continue to be a consumer and you just be a good little citizen and do what you're supposed to do. Pay your taxes and shut your mouth. And send us your boys and girls so we can slaughter them in foreign warfare. Y'all ain't even... We are picking fights all around the world with some big bad nations of the world that are going to whoop up on us in the last days according to the Word of God. And you have Christians going, yeah, man, let's go to war. Let's do it, President. God is with you and we're with you. I don't want to go to war. I don't want your children and my children to bleed for nothing. We done did that many, many times, and we're doing it right now in Afghanistan. Ain't nothing never changed. Iraq is in more trouble now. Syria's a cesspool, and we're fighting the Russian. All these things are part of propaganda that are seeping into the church, and we're having the false prophets tell the folks it's okay. Think that way. Jesus was a peacemaker, not a war maker. America's bloodthirsty. There was a time when we had a righteous cause, when all of these entities and foreign powers wanted to take our nation. I understand that there was a righteous day, but we're not in that day. We're in a day when it's about global dominance and oil and money. Is anybody here? But the propagandists, these false prophets, these people that you watch on social media and those talking heads on the television stations, they have us mesmerized. And I'm telling you, listen to me, when the next false flag comes, no matter if it's in America or if it's in Syria or if it's in Ukraine or if it's in the South China Sea, whatever false flag takes place, you will have Americans with their flags waving them, saying, God bless America, and chanting USA, 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 and have no idea of the reason for the conflict. We still have no idea why we went into Afghanistan. The official line was for the war on terrorism, but the truth is for opium. And that's a fact. But you don't want to study it. Americans are too gullible. They don't want to go out and research why we're there today after so many years and so much loss of blood. No, because it's better to keep me stupid. It's better to keep me drunk. It's better to keep me in this place of make-believe. I'm sorry if this is not your normal type of preaching, but this ain't a normal church, and I definitely ain't normal. You didn't have to say amen so hard. Because you all here, so something must be wrong with you. You all keep showing up time after time. Is anybody here? Let me finish this for you. But this is a living reality, and I hope it's a sharp rebuke to many folks that are out there in that world that believe these things and listen to these people. And every time they have a new revelation and they have a new tweak, they tweak their words and try to fix them and try to get everything to work out. It's insanity, man. You better stay with truth. Are you still here? Verse 6. For he shall be like the hearth in the desert, and he shall not see when good cometh. And he shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land and not inhabited. In other words, when you trust in man, when you trust in a system, you're always going to end up on the wrong side. You're always going to end up in drought. You're always going to be an island unto yourself. You better hang out with family. You better hang out with those. Verse 7 tells you how blessed that a man would be. Verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart and I try the reins, and give unto every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. In other words, God said, I will be the payback. I will be the payment, and I will be the judge. In the coming days, our nation will be judged in a greater way, not because of the good things of our forefathers, but because of the sin of our day today. Because of our preachers and of righteousness who will not stand up and just tell America the truth. All I ever desire when I get up here is to tell the truth. I don't care how many numbers we get. I don't care how much we increase. I don't care about anything concerning nickels and noses. What I care about is giving the truth and people's lives being changed. Because I'm telling you, man, it is getting absolutely worse, and the propaganda machine is working overtime. I read a report yesterday or the other day that really just threw me back, that now more than ever men are wearing stilettos. I said it right this time, didn't I? Last time I almost got in a fight in the parking lot how to say stiletto. Not a stilettus, stiletto. Stiletto. Now listen to me now, don't lose the train of thought. Men increasingly are starting to wear stilettos. Come on, folks, y'all need to help me. It don't make a difference. I'm talking about women's shoes with the big toothpick at the bottom. Now you got me. Men are starting to wear them. And now there's shoes companies that are making them large enough for the man. Are you here with me? This is America. But we see it on our television programs through the propaganda. This is not just bad programming and bad acting. This is on purpose to take away the masculinity of man, to take away the strength of man, to take the headness away from man of who he is in authority. That's why every time you see these sitcoms, dad is always dumb and dad is always lazy and dad's always walking behind a boisterous woman. You know it's the truth. And the children always making jokes about dad. He's a big old idiot. You know it's the truth. We've lost it. We've lost the righteousness in America and the right standing with God, where we flip everything upside down. The Bible declares that I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath, blessed coming in and going out in the city and the field. But you watch the propagandists and they tell us the opposite, even the preachers. Women's shoes. And then somebody sent me a video about, listen to this now, hold on to your weave or your toupee. They are now making designer lingerie for men. I kid you not. Folks, I'm going to stand behind this pulpit and scream. Because we have people that just sit back and they rear back on their thumb listening and saying, oh, well, you know, that's just over in Europea. That's over in a foreign country. That's right here in America. And they're dumbing down men and they're castrating them and they're doing everything they possibly can to take the strength of a man away that God put in charge. Lingerie for men. Men wearing bras. Is that good enough for you? Look it up. It's there. I'm not pulling something out of my imagination. This is happening. Where's the preachers that stand up on Sunday morning and say, hell no, we ain't going to allow that to happen. No way we're going to let that happen. We're going to teach our children righteousness. We're going to teach a boy to be a boy and how to shoot a gun and fish. Go get an axe and learn how to chop some wood, boy. Instead of painting his nails. Well, I don't know what's wrong with little Johnny. You gave him a Barbie at 4. What do you think? Ever heard of G.I. Joe, the great American hero? What happened to Tonka truck? Tonka toy. That's all I remember. Tonka, man. Crash that thing in a tree, put dirt in its wheels, put mud all over it. Put a frog in the back and dump them out. Tonka, baby. They don't know about Tonka today. Quick bake in 30 seconds. Yay. Giving them little cookbooks and recipes and aprons. Listen, I'm trying to lighten this up, but it is so serious. It's the propaganda that is coming by the globalists and by these people who are pedophilias and crazies and freaks, and we accept it and we don't say nothing about it, and we allow our children to do it. This is why judgment is coming to America, because what will America look like in 10 years from now? Just think about it. Some of y'all ain't going to be able to go to your dentist or doctor next time because you're going to wonder if he's wearing a pair of... You don't know if he's got a thong on. Come on, man. It's where we are. And then you're going to sit there and lie to the church and tell them we're going to drain and swallow. You'd have to blow up the whole nation. You'd have to set fire from one end to the other and crisscross to get every critter out of here. You can't. Only Jesus will on that day, on the day of the Lord. And then you sit there and listen to these false prophets, and you false prophets say all this stuff, and the propagandist machines out there that are giving all kinds of junk. Can I just tell you something? I got a few more minutes. I'm just going to wear you out. Let me just tell you something. Most of your prophetic guys on all these sites and different things, and don't try to find out which one I'm talking about, because you got to be on your own. I've got friends and I support them and I believe in them. But I'm going to tell you right now, everybody that gets up there says, well, my insider told me. You live in a trailer, dude. You don't have no insider. You live in Cannon. You don't have somebody in D.C. You're a liar. I'm telling you, and I'm in this world, and you hear it all the time. It says, yo, one of my insiders told me. Who, Barney Fife? Nobody told you anything. You got a little imaginary puppet thing that you play with when no one's home. Prophet puppet. Is anybody here? That's exactly what goes on. And you listen to these and they come on your social media and they tweet you and all this stuff and you're like, what? But people believe it, and you look at the numbers. You think I'm crazy? By the multiplied thousands, they'll have 10, 20, 30, 40, 100,000 views on YouTube. And I take 30 seconds and I say, garbage. Garbage. Propaganda. Listen, what does it mean? It means that our minds are being weakened, that our nation is being weakened, that our churches are being weakened. We can't find people that can think straight and have a solid mind in the mind of Christ because they're double-minded. And when you're double-minded, you're unstable in all your ways. Let your yeas be yeas and your nays, nays. Let me go down to verse 15. I'm going to give you 2 more verses, and I promise you I may be quiet. Verse 15. And behold, they say unto me, where is the word of the Lord? Let it come now. That's basically 2 Peter 3:4. Where's the coming of the Father? Where's the word, preacher? You said judgment's coming, man. All these things are coming. Where is it at? Jeremiah says, you just hang on. It's going to come to pass exactly the way the Lord said it would come to pass. Verse 23. But they obeyed not, neither inclined their ear, but made their necks stiff, that they may not hear nor receive instruction. Go down to verse 27 as I close. He said what? He said they would not listen. But if you will not hearken unto me, to hallow the Sabbath day and not to bear a burden, and entering in at the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then will I kindle a fire in the gates thereof, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem, and it shall be not quenched. What does that mean? It basically means this, that if you don't do what I told you to do and follow the truth of this word, then judgment comes to you. Judgment comes to the palaces. Judgment comes to the house. Judgment comes to where the head is sick, because if the head is sick, the whole body is. We're in a sick nation right now. We have a White House that lies its teeth off. And if you think they're lying just about sex scandals and a few other things, you are mistaken. Because wherever there is a politician, there's a lie being spun. We're living in a time of great deception. And this is what the Bible said would be the last day. I'm not preaching against anybody. You support who you want to, whatever. I'm just telling you, if it is anti-truth, then it is anti-Christ. And I'm not going to follow it or the propaganda. Heavenly Father, I delivered your message, though I have more to say. I pray you take what I've said across the airwaves and change the lives of people around. Let them be challenged to hear this. Father, I don't pray for badness to anybody. I pray that they would come to know Jesus as Lord and Savior. But if they continue with their propaganda, these in the house of God, I ask that you would judge them and judge them quickly. We love you, Father, and worship you. In Jesus' name, everybody say amen and amen. I love you. Love everybody on live stream. Bless you guys. Good to have you guys. We love you. Appreciate you.